Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a minisode of Baka. What is a minisode of Baka? Well, first, do you know what Baka is? It's an anime podcast where we talk about anime that we watched over the past 2 weeks. That's what we're usually about. But every once in a while, we do minisodes where we discuss various topics just to hear ourselves talk because we love the sound of our voices and how similar they can be.
So smooth.
Just play this at night to fall asleep.
Like a Bob Ross YouTube video.
Yeah.
Happy accidents.
So before we get into the topic of today's minisode, I need the help of my co-host. First off, we have the chime to my ding. It is Jeremy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I actually have a pretty cool thing to report, and that is that we are in the process of getting a blog on the website. So once we have some content put up, yeah, maybe there'll be something to read. So that's pretty cool. Other than that, I really don't have anything new to report. Signing off.
All right. We also have the bing to my bong, Jason.
These are right up there. Anyway,
It's a minisode, and there's a character named Belle coming up. It ties together.
Oh.
a little bit older news, but I'm sure most people know the new map on Apex came out. And it feels like you're just calling into the wind because there is nobody to fight. And then all of a sudden 4 teams show up in one spot and you die. No, the map's a little too big, but it's really cool looking. The design is cool. The biggest issue I have with it is they added NPCs, or they added some monster characters into it. You get cool rewards, but monster characters have no business being in a battle royale at all. It gives away your position. If you're getting chased by them while you're in a gunfight, it just makes the gunfight just one-sided. Yeah, that's my feelings on that. But yeah, been having fun with that. Got a few wins in this week. So
Sweet.
And my name's Troy. I'm going to barely be participating in this minisode because not really has anything to do with me. But I guess I recently rewatched The Kingsman. I haven't done much rewatching stuff, and I want to say I rewatched The Kingsman. On a Black Friday sale, I bought a bunch of spy movies. Like all the Daniel Craig, James Bond, all the Jason Bourne, you name it. If it was a spy movie, I probably bought it. If it's Mission Impossibles, I got all of them. And I bought The Kingsman and Kingsman 2. I love The Kingsman. That is a fantastic movie. That's all.
is the new one out yet? The prequel?
No.
You excited for that one?
I am. Did Matthew Vaughn direct it? If it's the same director, I'm excited for it. If not, I'll probably wait.
Fair enough.
Well, his style is so unique for The Kingsman. The way the camera follows the action, so it's always center frame. It's so cool. And my wife likes British people, so she liked it too. All right, let's talk about something important. For our minisode, we had actually a request to review DanMachi Season 3, or Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon Season 3. And we've already done 2 podcast episodes on it, so it's not within our purview to do. It's a stupid rule that I have just so that we don't get stuck on the same 4 anime in a rotation. Always have fresh stuff coming in. But Jeremy and Jason don't like that rule. No, because they had this request, and you guys did really like that anime, whereas I had been more middling on it. You actually agreed together to go watch it separately from the anime we were already watching and discuss it in a minisode, so that at least we could put out a little bit of extra content on that and get some reviews. I did not watch it, so I am more here just to moderate and ask questions about the further adventures of Belle and his harem. So
as it grows.
as I'm sure it does. So I guess we'll start with the big question. Jason, we'll go with you. What did you think of the anime and this season?
Little step down for me. I was a little disappointed with if you watched our previous episode of Baka, tone issues. Um, I'll
Broken
have to
record.
say it definitely plays true to the rest of the story. I think it fits well with the previous two seasons, but in a self-contained unit of a season 3, I wasn't as happy with it as I was with season 1 and 2. I still enjoyed it. The jokes landed fairly well. But yeah, I'd actually really like to get Jeremy's thoughts on it because fellow DanMachi liker, it didn't quite sit well with me.
Yeah, I love the idea that they were going for. They were really trying to go with this idea of are the monsters really all monsters, and can some be saved, and can we work with some? Can we coexist? And that's really cool. I like the idea of exploring that. But to me, the thing that I really liked about DanMachi came in season 1, and that was the comedy. I loved how much it made me laugh in season 1. And I remember that season 2 was a bit of a step down from season 1. And I think season 3 is even more of a step down in the comedy. It seems to take itself a lot more seriously. And I'm torn because I want to respect that in the sense that coexisting with monsters potentially is a serious topic, and they decided to go that route with it. But it's just not really the flavor I'm looking for when I watch DanMachi. Yeah. So yeah, it left me unsettled as well. Not unsettled in a bad way, just felt a little bit off.
One of the big things that caught my attention, and we'll get into a deeper discussion here in a second. The RPG elements of the anime are nearly completely left behind from season 1. And also, as far as the comedy goes, it's like we go from main character literally rolling away from his crush in the middle of a dungeon, which was hilarious, to diving into the issues of slavery and poaching.
Right.
It's just So we'll get into it.
All right. Point goes to Jeremy.
It doesn't matter what either of us say.
Right.
Every point.
What? No, this is a very fair and balanced moderation. All right. So Jason has prepared me. Obviously, I haven't watched it, and we can't go through the plotline like we do in a regular episode, but he has prepared for me short descriptions of each of the story arcs. So I'll bring them up, and then you guys can share your thoughts about the story arcs or anything special from them. So we'll start with the first one, which is finding and hiding the weenie monster.
Okay, hold on. So she's a monster, and her name's Weenie, but that's how it's spelled.
I've heard it both ways.
What's that?
I've heard it both ways. But she's a dragon girl, from what I am to understand. Your guys' thoughts on this arc?
Terrible name.
Right. I love the implications when they first introduce her. Like, when you go into this dungeon, you murder everything that comes at you. And Belle is the only one that goes, hold up, those are tears, not claws. And, takes her home. Which, that's a Belle thing to do. Belle does as Belle does. Need more girls in the house.
Right.
And I love these interactions with there's a really cool scene where she, the dragon girls, really attaching herself to Belle. They're at a picnic. She gets a little too exuberant about how much she likes him, and her claws tear his arm, and she doesn't realize what she's done. And instead of the whole shunning or, making a huge scene of it, Belle holds her hand and says, it's okay. I know you didn't mean to do that. That was totally unexpected from my point of view when it comes to anime. That was very offbeat, and I really liked that, where it was like, okay, we're going to show this kindness and compassion. And I actually really enjoyed what they were setting up at this point.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting the role that she fell into, right? Like, so we have from season 1, we have the little pipsqueak girl that can change her shape. I can't remember her name. Lily. We have Lily, right? And Lily's kind of like a sister to him, is how I see her. Even though there is, the natural harem romance, that's always the question there. She seems like a sister. And then you have yeah, no touching. And then you have the blonde one that we got in season 2, which is like the fox girl, who is always so innocent and everything and acts like a wife, basically. Like she's essentially wants to be his counterpart. And then you have the samurai girl, who's another sister. This one shows up. Wine wants to basically fill in the role of being his daughter. And it's really cool to see. Like there is no romantic interest there. Not a single bit on either side. There's like this sense of innocence that she has, and the roles are very quickly filled, where he kind of steps up to the plate and starts acting like a dad, and the blonde fox lady starts acting like a mom, and they don't even really realize what they're doing. It's adorable. It's very, very cute to watch. Very well done. And I think that there's one thing that I was initially complaining about, but later they solved it by explaining things. I thought it was really weird how, like, she has no memory or anything, but she has language and she understands concepts, but she doesn't understand, like, she doesn't have the words for everything, but she recognizes words. They explain it later, and I do find it to be a satisfactory explanation, but it definitely had me wondering what in the world how are they going to explain this? So yeah, and I do like where they went with her too. So I'm pretty happy with her as a character.
Okay. I'm giving the point to Jeremy because he said the name Wine the most.
I knew I was gonna lose.
You were right in there, man. It was neck and neck. I don't think you said it once, and he said it once. It was very close. All right, part 2. It seems this is about a man-made labyrinth called the Nos SOS
Knossos?
Knossos labyrinth.
Exactly.
And this is a man-made labyrinth that is a competition for the dungeon. The dungeon, of course, being what all the adventurers go into to do their adventuring in. So your guys' thoughts on this? Also the Icalos Familia, which is another god, I'm assuming, and also poaching in this one, like you guys had mentioned.
Yeah, so the Ikilos Familia is poaching these poaching monsters and selling them off, right? And so there's that moral quandary. But I found this whole idea that side by side, and there's connections from this labyrinth to the dungeon. There was this dude that he was so obsessed with it that he actually has a blood bond between sons because he goes crazy making this labyrinth. He's like, no dungeon's gonna beat me in building a subterranean structure. And so they build this labyrinth. I don't know if anything inhabits it or if there's just traps or what it is, but it literally goes side by side, and like on floor 19, which the adventurers in previous seasons have not gone down to, there's a doorway that you can go directly into the dungeon, which they didn't know that there were any dungeon entrances outside of Babel, the top level one where the tower is. So yeah, I thought that was neat.
Yeah, the family, I really think I recognized them from season 2. I remember something about there being that god being involved with the alcohol issue that they were dealing with in season 2, but I don't remember the details very well. So it did seem like he was recurring as a villain. But it was kind of cool because the guy who made this Knossos dungeon, I think he was the one that built Babel, the tower itself, as well. Not the dungeon, of course, but he built the tower. And then after he built the tower, he just got this obsession. And I love the fact that you have to actually have an eye from one of his descendants to be able to get into the dungeon, because so you have like these keys that are weird little spheres with an eyeball inside of them, and in the center of the iris is like a big D, because that's his name, and that's pretty cool. But there's
his name is Big D.
Big D.
I don't remember the like original descendants or ancestor's name,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like it's the bloodline, right? So like any
Yeah.
of his sons don't need to present a key; they can just walk in. But if you want to get in, you don't have the bloodline. You have to have one of these eyeballs.
Yeah. Which I'm a little bit frustrated with how that was introduced so that he could actually get the eyeball. It seemed a little bit contrived. I could see it, like it works, but it just at the time really it was a bit frustrating because the elf girl from the previous season shows up and just gives it to him, basically gives him a bag with, hey, there's stuff in here you might need, and an eye happens to be in there. And yeah.
All right. This point, in all fairness, goes to Jason. But I do need to take it away. I'm going to give it to Gamer Dad, our follower on Twitter, because he always likes our tweets and he's listened to us for such a long time. It didn't matter who got it; it was going to him. But it should have been Jason, but it just won't go to your final score. Sorry, man.
I feel
All right.
attacked.
You are right in this. All right, part 3.
You can make a comeback.
What are these names? Fell and Uranus, plants and humans coexist. The intelligent monsters. The intelligent monsters and humans, should they live together?
All right, so there's another familia, the Oroanus.
Yeah,
Is that how you
Uranus.
pronounce it?
Uranus.
Yeah, so his familia doesn't seem very large.
No.
But he seems very like prominent amongst the gods, or at least important. But he also works in the shadows. I didn't really get this character.
I remember from season 1 there was talk about one of the gods that actually was like the god over the dungeon, and that he didn't have like a familia of people, and I think that's this guy.
Oh, that's right, because so he directs the guild.
Yeah.
And he can give orders to the guild to another familia, and that familia cannot reject that order from the guild that comes from this dude. Anyways, he's run into this group of monsters that have gained intelligence, and he called them the Xenos, and he wants to see if humans and them can coexist. So Bell finding Wine was very much a contrived instance because he believed that Bell might be the key to bridge this gap. So I thought, and also Fell's a really interesting character. He's basically a lich that doesn't need a container. And I really like this storyline. I like where it's going.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit odd that they didn't try to have the. What am I trying to say? I think it would have been smart, given that he's a god that watches over the dungeon and has control of the guild, to use guild members to essentially introduce the concept of the Xenos down inside of the dungeon city. Let the dungeon city be the place where you experiment and try to, have a friendly relationship. These creatures, let them stay in the dungeon, let them live there, but they maybe can be friendly merchants that come to the city in the dungeon and don't go outside for a while. It was weird to me.
The issue that we came across,
though,
is that a lot of the monsters, or the Xenos specifically, they wanted to see sunlight. They wanted to see the sky. They didn't like being in the dungeon all the time because they had to fight all the time. Because the monsters would attack them as well. So I could see the conundrum that they were coming across, because you had this large force of intelligence monsters starting to gather. And so in the beginning, there's this warrant for a monster with armor and weapons, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
He equipped armor? Like that's weird. So I really liked where it was going at this point.
Yeah, it seemed like they would be able to say, we will get you to the surface. We totally will, but it's going to take 2 steps instead of just 1. But yeah, it was cool to see them constantly migrating around too, having to go to, like, the dungeon has prepared these places, these wombs for us, these sanctuaries where we can migrate back and forth like nomads to survive. Fellow was awesome.
Well, I love their explanation because I don't know if they explain the intelligent monsters and how they appear here. It might be later. But basically, they're like, how if a human souls die, it goes to heaven. Well, a monster soul dies, it goes back to the labyrinth. But these souls are remembering each death, and they're gaining intelligence and gaining sentience. And I thought that was a really cool design for this story. So.
Yeah. Lots of baggage. They have terrible nightmares.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I got a little distracted and started scrolling through Twitter on that one. So no points for this one. We'll just move on.
Best moderator ever.
Dang Twitter.
Xeno fights with Dix and come on, Jason. These can't be real names. Are you just messing with me?
No, it's
All
DIX.
Right. Dix removes Wheaties' jewel, and she goes crazy.
I didn't even think about that when I wrote that.
But Xenos
maybe the story was telling something else.
Xenos defeats the Icolos family and Dix, and everyone ends up on the surface.
All right, so Dix is like the main bad guy, which is really funny that his name's Dix. And he's like Achilleos' main dude, right? And he's the main poacher, and he's the descendant of the dude that built the labyrinth. But he's going nuts, right? And so, but he's found these intelligent monsters, and he's taken his poaching to the next level, and he's selling these intelligent monsters off for terrible things. So when the Xenos find out that one of their parties has been attacked and the poachers have taken them, they find out how to get into the labyrinth from floor 19. They enter, they battle, and Dix is able to take Winnie's jewel. So she's got this jewel on her forehead, and it's basically her intelligence, her personality, her everything. He rips it off. So then she goes berserk and becomes just a dungeon monster with bits of her intelligence and personality still in there, but mainly just a monster. And so she goes running off, and she gets to the surface.
I found two things. Well, one thing was interesting and one thing was kind of weird. So like none of the other monsters have a gem on their forehead. So it's interesting to me that you can just kind of take her intelligence away so easily. Definitely seemed like it was there to allow this plot beat, which I thought was kind of a little bit sad.
So this is where the story starts to get a little lazy in its writing for me.
Yeah, exactly. It felt a little lazy. But on the other side of the spectrum, I really liked the way that they explained Dick's behavior, because Dix was clearly a sadist. He was enjoying every time that he would harm or murder these intelligent monsters, mainly because they're intelligent. He got up to level 5 as a character. Now keep in mind, the numbers stay really low in this anime. So level 5 is like orders of magnitude more powerful than a level 4 or a 3.
Yeah, Bell's only 3.
Yeah, and Bell's only 3. So he's ridiculously powerful. And so he's been down in the dungeon just slaughtering monsters, trying to quiet this bloodlust that he has for building the dungeon. It's not a bloodlust for killing. It's literally a bloodlust. And I say that because it comes from his blood bond. It's a bloodlust to continue building the Knossos human-made dungeon. And it's constantly on his mind, and it's driving him nuts. And so he would go in and he'd fight things, but it didn't seem to make a difference. So then he discovered these intelligent monsters, and he enjoyed the sadistic pleasures of harming, torturing, and killing them. And so come to find out, the only way he can sate his bloodlust to build the temple is to basically be a psychopath, a serial killer that thrives off of this. And I thought, when we were first introduced to him and he was doing these sadistic things, I was like, how is this guy, like, he's horrible. I can't believe he's doing this stuff. How can he be so sadistic? And I thought they did a good job explaining why he is. Like, he's an insane man with a horrible disability that is quieting his disability with horrendous things. And that was interesting that they chose to do it that way.
Yeah. So yeah, they.
Wait, you doing my job? Can I do my
Nope,
job now?
you are. You are.
Okay,
Nope.
point to Jeremy.
That's it.
Point to Jeremy.
Oh,
Steal my
I see. I'm
job.
getting penalized.
Yeah, you gotta steal my
Where's the
job. Of
ref?
course you
This
gotta
isn't
steal
fair.
What do you think was gonna happen? All right, part 5. The humans are now hunting Wine, and she gets killed but resurrected. The Xenos is hiding underground, trying to get back into the dungeon, and there's a giant Minotaur fight in this arc. Let Jason try this time. Just try.
Okay. I can't do it. No, so Winnie escapes the temple or the labyrinth. She gets up on the surface. So all the Xenos, after defeating Dix and his familia, they go to try and save her, but she's already rampaging through the streets. Fortunately, she doesn't kill anybody. But as the Loki familia is about to kill her, Bell puts his life on the line and like blocks any shots, and they're really confused. Like, why are you protecting a monster? And even earlier, he had asked Eyes, which their relationship is so sparse throughout this anime, which is really frustrating. I thought that was his whole world was Eyes.
His power revolves around her, which just makes it really weird that she's not there.
Yeah. But he ends up asking her, like, hey, let's just say a monster might have the same emotions and intelligence as you. What would you do? She's like, I'd murder them. No hesitation. She's just like, yeah, I'd kill him. So this is really confusing for her because she looks down and sees him like, don't touch it. And then he comes up with the excuse of, I saw it first, so this is my kill. And then, takes off and goes hunting after him. This is where the writing got really lazy and also frustrating for me. So one of the draws for me with DanMachi in season 1 and 2 was the political intrigue and the political battles that were happening behind the scenes with the gods. Hestia is not nearly as prominent, which I could take or leave her in any of the seasons, really, because she's kind of dumb. But in this season, she's fairly wise. Hermes was a huge letdown. He did not. He was a completely different character.
1 minute
What?
time. 1 minute
What?
time. You have 1 minute left in. Well, it's 30 seconds now left in your.
So, anyways,
He's just gonna ignore it.
that they start. My point is, they start to try and do this like political infighting between the gods again as a tertiary, and it was just not particularly.
Great job, Jeremy. Your response?
Wow.
I would donate some of my time, but I think I'll use it all. So yeah, I loved the scene where she, they had guts, they killed her. It was sad. You felt it. And then they went and resurrected her. And I get it. I knew they were going to, but man, it was so potent when they let her die. Like it really meant something. And it could have been a really strong learning moment for Bell, right? Something that could affect him throughout the following seasons. He would have to grow to deal with the trauma, the loss, maybe his perspective on the humans as opposed to, the monsters. All of that just disappears when you resurrect her and get her back in the game. And so I was really sad that they did that, but I did expect it because DanMachi doesn't really, I was actually really surprised that they had the guts to kill her off in the first place. It just doesn't seem like something this anime would do. It wants to be a bit more lighthearted than that. And your what's that?
Grow a spine.
Yeah, exactly, right. And you're absolutely right that the political intrigue really isn't there. Like even Icolos, the Icolos Familia, the god that's in charge of that family is just kind of a layabout that doesn't really lead. He lets Dix do whatever he wants, and so there is no political, as it should be. There is no political intrigue there because it's more about just the human doing what the human wants, and he's just motivated by the bloodlust and sadism. So what happens winds up happening purely because of Bel's action, not because of any interesting play by the gods. There is one attempt made coming up. Was that?
Time. We're approaching time.
Oh, we're approaching it? Okay. There's one attempt made to actually to do a little political intrigue right at the end, and I kind of felt like it fell flat on its face with Hermes. Because it just seemed out of character and brutal when it didn't even need to be there. It was kind of dumb, I thought. So
He went overtime. That's my point. By default.
Both contestants did a great job, but I did such a great job moderating. I'm taking the point for me. 1 point for Troy. Some top-notch moderating. All right. Final storyline. The Hestia family and Belle have to help Xenos escape and get them into the dungeon. Belle faces... I can't say that word, Jason. We are...
What, eyes?
One S. Belle faces Eyes and convinces her that intelligent monsters are real and they can be saved. Go ahead.
Yeah. I thought this part was okay. There was a little bit of cat and mouse. It just didn't. I don't know. Again, it just felt lazy. So yeah, they play. Belle plays distraction, which actually there's a really funny part because Eyes is watching him because they're convinced that he's helping monsters, and like one girl comes up and he deals with her, and then another girl comes up and she's like, oh, another girl, and then another girl comes up, he's another girl, and then another girl like grabs his arm, she's like, what is going on? So the monsters escape, but the Minotaur fight is
it's
fantastic.
Good. Yeah.
So apparently in season 1, Belle fights that big Minotaur. This Minotaur's gained intelligence, and he's been down on the 20th floor getting stronger. And he finally finds Belle in the street. He's like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I'd like a rematch. Can we do that? And he's like,
he's
yes.
only got one arm.
Yeah. Because the dwarf took his arm earlier.
Yep.
Or no, Eyes did.
That was Eyes.
Yeah, Eyes did. So anyways, he just wrecks Belle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
this whole the fight sequence was amazing, absolutely beautiful. As a matter of fact, I think it was like this is up there with, in my mind at least, with like One Punch Man fight scenes. Even though it only lasts for like 40 seconds of that level of quality of animation. But it's really cool because you don't expect Belle to lose, right? It's stereotypical in an anime that the protagonist is going to win that final battle. And the fact that he loses it, but he loses to an opponent who is, he's beat him before. And the opponent literally says, all right, that's one for me, one for you. We're going to meet one more time later and we'll settle this. And then walks off down into the dungeon. And that was just really cool to see because you'd think, when we're introduced to that Minotaur in season 1, he's just a throwaway hurdle for Belle to leap over. So to have him come back into this season 3 and be such an important character, he's the one that kills dicks. So like he is an important character. He gets to kill the villain of this season.
He chops dicks with his axe.
He does. So I'd be afraid.
This is a family-friendly show, mister.
I'm sorry, it was a little gory.
Yes. And I also really enjoyed the scene where Wine comes back and saves Belle. The names, right? Wine comes back and saves Belle, and just what she was willing to sacrifice in order to prove that she wasn't a monster. That was so heartwarming. Like you really felt this character was willing to. She was willing to deface herself and rip off everything that might define her as a monster.
Yeah, Eyes goes, yeah, you're going to hurt someone with those claws. You're going to terrify people with those rings. She breaks off her nails and then rips her wing off and just like is bleeding out. And Eyes is just like, I can't kill you anymore.
Yeah.
That changes my perspective.
Yep.
Yeah.
She reached her. Yeah. And that was really cool. So yeah, I thought that was a really good conclusion to that. It showed that, Eyes has changed her perspective. But the Hermes thing really got me, because then Hermes is like, okay, everybody's saved down here. That's great. Nope, we need 4 of you. You're going to go up and you're going to fight Belle, and you're going to lose and you're going to die, because we need to get Belle's reputation back up again. And I don't know, I really didn't like that whole sequence. And this is what led to the Minotaur fight. Because those 4 went to fight with him, and Belle's like, I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to kill you. I know you're good guys. And so they got to essentially flee when the Minotaur showed up. So it was almost like it didn't matter in the first place. Like, they could have just had the Minotaur come up and hit Belle and done that without having Hermes try to do this political maneuver. And so it felt wasted. That's why I say it seemed like it fell flat on its face. They didn't need to do it.
I'll be honest, this one is a tie. We're gonna have to go to a tiebreaker. Guys, who's got the longer beard? Jeremy. Jeremy's got a longer beard. Point for Jeremy. Close one.
Good thing you randomly picked the tiebreaker.
And good thing we it was between people who had beards, so I guess Troy wouldn't be able to part of that.
That's true. Troy gets a negative point there. You lose your point, Troy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you trying to tell the moderator what to do? Because
no, sorry, never mind.
You were winning this thing a second ago.
I need to just sit down and shut up.
All right. The end of our Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon Season 3, or DanMachi, as you guys like to call it, comes to 4 points for Jeremy, 0 points for Jason, a point from Jason for Gamer Dad, and 1 point for the great moderating Troy. Yeah, that's so Jeremy wins.
Woo!
Wow.
Our first ever and last ever championship of Baka reviewing.
DanMachi.
Last championship of ever.
All right.
I give it 3 Bakas.
I also give it 3.
Three Bakas. All right. We are next week talking about the anime Fena Pirate Princess, and we will be reviewing that with our regular episode. If you have any thoughts about DanMachi Season 3 or any other anime that we have discussed, feel free to reach out to us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. Our website, the animebakaclub.com, has a contact us link there, or you can leave a comment wherever you found this podcast and it'll get back to us as well. And we do really appreciate the feedback from what we've been getting lately. It has been fantastic. Thank you guys so much. And we do have more fun things in the future that we hope to be able to announce soon. With that, I think it's time for us to say goodbye.
Thanks for listening, except for Troy's moderation.
I won!
Jeremy's the champion. Sayonara.